Welcome back.
Welcome back.
Uh-oh.
Stacie, you always bring to attention, especially to me. I love learning from you. And you brought to my attention this idea of what is it called? Those girls on TikTok?
Oh, pick me girls.
Pick me
So,
girls. This
we
is
are old, so we
it's-
have to like Google
I
everything.
was like, what's
Or
that?
like, had you heard of the term alpha male?
Of
as
course,
well?
alpha male.
Well, alpha male
yeah,
in that
yeah.
context of these guys who, I don't know, like, that's why I was so nervous about starting a podcast, because I know people are like, God, so many people should not have podcasts because these guys are just so delusional and toxic and yeah. But then there's the other side of that, of like the women who like support these like ideas.
See, we are
which is
equal
crazy.
opportunity here. I'm breaking the fourth wall. We are equal opportunity here, talking about, not just male and male bashing or anything like
Mhm.
that, but also exploring the other side of it with females
Mhm.
who contribute to this, I'd call it, toxic way of
Viewing
viewing
themselves.
the I'm so trying to be like open-minded
Yeah.
and,
Mhm.
trying to be diplomatic, but it's so hard
Yeah.
when I am like viscerally heated.
Yeah, I know. When I was texting you about this, I was like getting so angry just like thinking about it. And then at the same time, I was like, do we want to even like discuss them or even, but
Of course.
it's just,
Yeah, because it's like, do we even want to go in that direction? Do we want to like, I don't want to possibly offend anybody, but that's when I know it has to be discussed. And because you and I are so level-headed and we're not one-sided, even if we disagree with something, we will explore the other side.
Mhm.
And
It's harder for me on certain issues.
I felt your wrath via text. And you're such a level-headed person too.
Apparently I'm not.
But when it comes to certain issues, I was like, oof, we definitely have to unpack this
Mhm.
because it takes a lot for you to get riled up about something.
It
Because you're
doesn't.
so like, even though you have your points of views and you're not scared to share them, you still do it in a way that's very like,
Depends on who I'm talking to and about what. Mhm.
I'm glad you feel open enough to share all of your emotions with me. So what was it? How did you find these particular TikTok videos? How did you fall into that rabbit hole and start like
I know.
finding
So it's
this?
mainly people who stitch them, because it's mainly people who basically stitch these videos and are like replying to them. So say like we had a TikTok account and we saw this video, it infuriated us, so we would stitch it and then you would get like a little portion of the original video and then you could do like your retort, your rebuttal or whatever to whatever they were saying.
That's how it is now. It's like
Mhm.
it's not even in person. It's like retort. They're not even in person
no.
having a debate.
No.
Oh my god.
No, it's just on their own TikTok account.
Okay, so already with that, before we continue, because I'm such an in-person, in real time type of person,
Mhm.
because these type of interactions, it plays a difference in how you communicate. And I'm
Mhm.
all about in-person communication because
Direct communication.
direct communication, because it's almost as if it's the, how do I say this diplomatically? It's such a cop-out to videotape yourself and then do whatever you need to and then hit reply, because you're not, again, directly confronting somebody.
They kind of are, because they're tagged in it. So say like these women who are basically like, oh, I don't know, women, bad wives like deserve to be cheated on or whatever. Then all of these people will stitch that and be like, this is why you're wrong. So the original creators typically tagged in it. I think, I'm not entirely sure how it works.
So I'm glad they're at least inviting and knowing that there's going to be a rebuttal. But again, it's losing this idea of having it right after
Yeah,
and
but there's
responding like what we're doing right now. This dialogue immediately after.
yeah, but then there's like that video of the one I showed you where they're literally all on a podcast together and just attacking that one woman
Oh.
for not upholding Christian values. I don't know. And like she's a musical artist, and this man was attacking her, and then this woman was attacking her about like she can't be like a Christian with. They were commenting on like her blue hair or something. It was the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. Just berating her, yelling at her, not allowing her to speak. So there's that aspect as well of like people who don't care, about the other side, who don't care about seeing like the other person's perspective. It's just pushing their agenda. And this is why that pick me girl came up or whatever, is because people in the comments were like, oh, this woman who was attacking I think she's a music artist, for not being like a Christian woman and blah blah blah, and that's why men don't like her. I think I have no idea. These people are so delusional.
That's
like,
even worse that they're doing, because that was the
in
first video you showed
person.
in person,
Yes!
because I saw
and they invited her. I don't know the full
that's
context.
the like, because I saw the other videos of like, oh, it's a solo person just talking, she's gonna get a response of somebody else. But that first video, like you're saying, of in person, I just feel so sorry for that like guest who is just 2 against 1.
Yeah.
And they won't even let her
speak.
Yeah.
But telling her to answer their questions.
Exactly.
It was just all over the place.
And whether or not you agree with that person or not, again, not letting her speak is just, that's what infuriates me.
Yeah.
It doesn't even, for me, it's not like, even if you disagree with somebody, or like, I don't even care if I agree with somebody's response or not, giving that dignity for somebody to speak and you're just hounding in, like that is just not, it's rude and it's not decent and it's not good practice. You're not selling your point by
I don't
doing
think they
that.
care about that though. They don't care about other people's, I don't know, feelings, this woman's experiences, why she feels that way. Like, they don't care. And these people who feel like they need to be or even want to be like gatekeepers on anything is so bizarre to me. Like, oh, you can't be a Christian woman because blah, 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 blah. Or quoting I don't even know if she was like quoting the Bible. I have no idea, but I know that triggered you
because that female artist was saying, I am Christian and I am feminist.
Yes.
And she couldn't even finish her thought, where the other person was saying you can't be those two things.
Like,
and I was like,
who are you? Exactly. Gatekeeping. Like, who are you to say this though?
And she was using, like, I hate this when people use like, I've studied it and I've like gone through like all this schooling of like blah 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 blah. And I was like, yeah, you only had one side.
Yeah.
You haven't studied the world and other points of view, which would further support you. And if you had, you would let somebody speak. And that's why I love watching, miss you, Jon Stewart. He was such a great debater, and he would have conservatives on his show. And when I watch him debate and speak and listen, they would still respect each other at the very end. And like, I was like, that's how you do it. They still, of course, no one budged at the very end, but he still had the decency to let the person speak.
Yeah, that's big of him, because I don't even know if I could do that.
It was rough,
especially with some things where it's just very hateful. I'm just like, I can't see that. Like, but then am I that person then? If I can't see that, then there's that other aspect of like you becoming what you don't want to be.
But I don't think that's you though, because I think you are a decent person, and it would be interesting to put you in that position with somebody who is just like hammering and attacking you, because I feel like you thrive in those situations of knowing how to counter. For me,
I get so angry though, like I just like see red, like it's a lot of F-bombs.
people who are like, I like shut down and close in and I
Yeah.
lose my train of thought
Mm.
if like somebody interrupts me.
I think that's for people that I'm like don't have a history with, but people that I have a history with where this is something like we've had a battle about for years,
Mhm.
like it's pretty much on both sides, right? Because we both know that we're never going to change,
Mhm.
but still like they say something to trigger me and they know it's going to trigger me and then it's just an all-out brawl.
Have you ever met your own type of, what is this term again? What are these TikTok girls
Pick-me
called? Pick me
girl?
girls?
Pick me.
Have you ever met a pick me girl in real life?
I don't think so. Like I can't think like that would be so bizarre to me. I would like I was telling you before like when awkward stuff happens, I just start laughing. I'm like I don't understand what's happening. Like is this a joke? Like if a woman started talking to me like that, I wouldn't even know what to say. Like, what do you mean? Especially if she was not like, because a lot of these women, so what some of these TikToks of these women were talking about how like women are bad wives if like you don't have sex, if you don't submit, if you're not submissive to your husband. Mind you, these women aren't even married. So if a woman was telling me how to be a wife,
I know. I'm like, bitch, you and I
even if she was married, like I don't understand. Like everyone, to me, people who tell other people how things should be are just not happy. Because if you're
No.
trying to convince other people
Mhm.
why this is the way, why this is the good thing, why your husband, why you should be this way, you're not happy. Like, because if you were
Exactly.
happy with it, then you wouldn't have to convince anyone else of what they
No.
are. Or they're just trying to get views or
Followers, cause.
which is one
Yeah.
reason why I was like, do I even want to bring this up? Because do we want to even bring? But
Well,
people are all talking
but
about
I
it, so
like
whatever. We
I
can talk
like that
about
we're
it.
not even name dropping names because I don't want
Yeah.
to add fuel to the fire and
Mhm.
have like, oh, we're just
We'll give you
giving that name.
context.
We'll give you context and stuff, but like,
I'm sure you
no,
can
I
Google
don't
it.
want to like
Yeah.
give them praise or anything for even
Praise.
sharing.
Oh, like I could, like if I was sitting with someone like that, like because that same girl, you saw the one where she was on a panel of like women
Mhm.
and
Oof.
just like if I was on that panel, like I would just start laughing. Like I don't even know how to respond to someone who's like, women should be like you. I saw one video where she was like, "Oh, your happiness comes second to like your like family, like to your husband, to your children." And this one, and it was so sad because this one woman stitched it. That's where on TikTok where you take the original video and then you basically respond to it. She was telling the story about this woman who did everything that that woman said she should do. She submitted to her husband. She didn't, she didn't work. She relied on her husband, had sex with him, I guess, whenever he wanted, did whatever he wanted or whatever. And she was like, and then eventually this man was like, well, you don't need a car because you don't go to work. So she had no way to get around, nothing. And then she was like, and then this husband started becoming abusive. He started hurting her in front of the children. And this woman went to her daughter. I'm sorry if this is like not correct, but I'm just paraphrasing off a TikTok I saw a long time ago. She went to her daughter and basically tried to, or told her daughter she would or tried to in front of her daughter, saved her or something. She survived or whatever. But eventually, I think when the kids were older, the mother did end up committing suicide. And the woman talking was saying that that was her mother that happened to. And she was telling women basically, like, you need to take care of yourself. You need to be happy because your children want you to be happy. Your children want you to be there. This man's happiness, like, a man's happiness does not ever, oh my God, I could not even imagine thinking that a man's happiness comes before mine.
It's just, you like,
how can you make anyone happy if you're not happy?
Hearing your story, like we tell the story, it's just you can see this spiral. You can almost see the manipulation of it starts here, and then you're taking
take
away
advantage.
all this agency that a woman has. It's almost changing her paradigm.
Yeah.
Because she wasn't always that way. Some people, even though I disagree with it, some people were born and raised that way and know nothing else. And I'm sure that exists out there. and it works for them. But hearing this specific case
Yeah.
of like, you can see how it ends so detrimentally because it's just this
Yeah.
control
Mhm.
that the man takes
Yeah.
from the woman.
And on top of that, I've heard of like, I guess it's like a huge phenomena of like men who, when their wives get like a cancer or a terminal illness, like doctors or nurses will basically prepare the woman like your husband may leave you. And it's happened so often that because the woman can't take care of them anymore, they have to take
Oh
care of
my
the woman that their
gosh.
husbands leave them.
Okay, see,
Can
I
you
know
imagine?
I'm like, I know people who've had I don't know the reason why they've split or
Mhm.
anything, but the fact that you're telling me this, that doctors have to the fact that doctors
Yeah.
have to preface
Mhm.
their female patients that this phenomena
Mhm.
exists because there have been studies on it,
Or
like, and it that
statistics? Yeah.
statistics
Mhm.
and it is a reality
Mhm.
breaks my heart of like,
Isn't that
oh
insane?
my gosh, have we not evolved as a human race to realize what we're doing
Like, you don't
to
even
each
care about
other?
this person who you've committed to,
I
like, even if it was,
know.
like, not even my spouse, like, a friend, a family member,
Mhm.
anything, that you could just leave them in their time of need when they've been your partner for so long, like, that is so insane to me.
And what scares me is like, how well do you know your partners when this happens?
Mhm.
Because until something like that happens, I
Yeah.
wonder if there are red flags
Mhm.
to see that coming. I'm sure there are
Well, yeah, I mean,
of the control issues and seeing how they react in other situations where again, do you have agency
yeah.
over your choices and what are the
Mhm.
dynamics between you two? But that is terrifying.
It's just really sad, like, I can't imagine, like, getting cancer, that fear of dying, but then also knowing, like, that betrayal of someone just leaving you when you need them the most. Like, and how do you live with yourself after that? Like, just go on living that you've left the I don't know, it's so bizarre to me, but right. Their happiness comes before ours, right?
Yeah.
Please.
It's oh gosh. It's such an ingrained belief
Mhm.
as women, I think. I don't want to say all women, but for many women, it's that
Mhm.
caretaker, provide, because I can speak from my own experience. Like, yeah, I want to provide not only for men, but for others before
Mhm.
myself,
Mm.
where I want to make sure you are okay. And so
Mhm.
if you are in a relationship where somebody can take advantage of
Yeah.
that and doesn't see you and wants
Mhm.
to take care of you in turn,
Yeah.
oh my gosh,
Mhm.
people are just going to walk all over you and
Yeah.
you may not even see it. I
Yeah.
wonder if these women even realize what's happening to them
Mhm.
or they're just denial.
Mhm. I have no idea, but yeah, it's just it's very sad. I don't know. I don't know how you I mean, I can imagine how you get to that point, but and then how do you get yourself out of it? Especially like there's so many cases of women who are in abusive relationships and can't get
Mhm.
out because the husband convinced them or they decided to not work. So they have no fight. They're financially tied to this person to survive.
Yeah, when
So how do you leave when
you have so many deep rooted connections already where I'm
you're
sure, yeah,
dependent
you're
on this
dependent on this.
person?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where it's so difficult to make that jump and again, try to look out for yourself when
Mhm.
you're like, oh gosh, am I too
Mhm.
far in? Ah, see, that's
Yeah.
why I'm like, early on. Maybe that's why I'm still single.
Why?
Because I'm already looking at like so many like red flags. Ooh, I'd rather be single than deal with that in a
But there are
relationship.
so many, I mean, there are these alpha males. I don't even know how they pull women. Like, I could not even imagine being with anyone who had a dumbass thought like that come out of their head. But I couldn't even imagine. But there are plenty of men who are amazing, who
Exactly.
are great partners, who love you fully, want the best for you, want your happiness. Like, there are plenty of men.
There are plenty. Yes,
But
we
then
know these men exist.
But we also know the other side.
Oh, gosh. We're just waiting for a segue for that. So this is very fresh. I was thinking about this when you say, like, where in there do you realize, like, oh, am I stuck now? And I can't get out of it. So maybe because I'm very hyper aware of men like that, and I know I never would want to be in a relationship like that. And I've learned that for me, being in a relationship, having my voice heard is important, because luckily I have never been in a relationship where I felt I had to be submissive or I was talked down upon or abusive of any kind.
Yeah.
Sure, I felt like, yeah, with this person, I don't feel like I could be myself with and share openly, or maybe it's just not a good fit, or he's not interested in hearing my voice. But never have I ever felt like, wow, I can't speak. Until recently. Luckily, we've never been in a relationship. We were just talking, we hadn't even gone on a date or even met.
I mean, thank God. But that was the red flag too, is that he didn't want to meet.
He didn't want to meet in person.
What was his reason about previous people that he had dated?
Previous people, like, he was like, the last date I went on, we've only text messaged 40 messages. And on our first date, it was just completely dry. And I don't want to waste my time. And so I saw that in two different ways. Of course, the obvious is like, red flag there. But at the same time, like, I want to give you the benefit of the doubt because I haven't met you yet.
Yeah.
But when we started texting some more, I would continue to see a few more red flags of like, okay, kind of 2-word answers when I share something exciting about myself, of like, oh yeah, I'm a teacher and I teach theater.
Or something personal about yourself.
Yeah, something that means to me, of like, yes, please ask me some more. Like, I love reciprocated interest, and I would never get that back.
Yeah.
So again, I was like, maybe it'll be better in person. So,
but when in your conversations, I'm not sure if you feel comfortable sharing this, but in your conversations, when was he like the most lively, most interested?
The most interested and the most back and forth was when he would talk about, being very, I could tell he had a lot of confidence in his like connection sexually, of like trying to pursue someone when it had to do with like confidence in like, oh yeah, when we meet, you like, I'm sure like I'll like, you'll find me attractive, like I'm better in person. And then, spiraling from there, I'll say that much. But I should have noticed that, like you say, when it has to do with talking about himself and being confident physically and appearances too, he was all about that. And so I'm the opposite of like, yeah, I don't take selfies that much.
He had a selfie folder, right?
He had
ready to go.
He had a selfie folder, like, and you could tell like these pictures are like perfect angles and like, great filters. And I was like, oh, you're very confident. Like, some people, great, good on ya if you're confident with yourself, but those are a lot of selfies. And to have a folder of it, Okay. Whatever. Again, trying to give people the benefit of the doubt.
Mhm.
But I think the trigger warning for me was when he was pushing, how do I say this?
To get intimate.
He was pushing. No, I'm just going to say this because I didn't do it. He was pushing to get nudes. And I
constantly. Every day.
constantly, like, and he would sometimes say, like, you know, this isn't fun anymore if it's not fun for both of us, which I was like, oh, thank you. But then he would do it again the next day. And I was like, what happened to you? Like,
did we not just establish a boundary that you
Exactly.
continue to
And
push?
so I wanted to be very clear of saying, you know what, thank you for being very patient with me because I don't feel comfortable. You think that's enough? And then, like, a response would be like, yeah, it's okay, but, like, it takes the fun away, but whatever, you know? And so that was the final straw when I was like, hey, you know what? I could tell he brushed over, like, do you have any plans this weekend? And I was like, you know what? It's been too long of us going back and forth.
Yeah.
So I was like, hey, you know what? You want to have a telephone call? Because, mind you, we had not even ever heard each other's voices.
Oh my
And
God, I can't even imagine.
so
I know I could get turned off by someone's voice.
me too. We talked about this too. So luckily he was like, you know what? Let's FaceTime. I was like, even better. And
Marie texted me at 11 o'clock last night. I know it's late, but I have some updates on. And I was like, oh, good or bad? And she's like, bad. And I was like, oh no. She was like, FaceTime. I was like, yeah. So I had to go into the office because my husband was sleeping.
So mind you, it started at 10:30. The FaceTime,
her FaceTime.
my first FaceTime started at 10:30, and
we were on the phone by 11, so it didn't go well.
By 11, and just the Cliff Notes version, circling back to the whole not having my voice heard and feeling like he was trying to be just dominant in the conversation, whether he was aware of it or not. I felt as if I couldn't speak.
Yeah.
And there was at one point where I said, can I please finish my thought? And he got really defensive after me saying that. And so when he just kept going and was talking over me, and I was still trying to continue, and at the very end, you know, I just was like, I think this isn't going to work out. And then again, he still started to go out again. It's like, you just got defensive at this point when I didn't agree with you. And again, raised his voice because I tried to explain, just even from a personal point of view, not even about the topic about what we were talking about. It's just like, I just feel like, you know, for some women, like a resounding voice and being talked over, and when it's louder, you know, it stops me in my tracks personally, and I lose my train of thought.
Yeah.
And he wasn't listening to that
Of course
at
not.
all. He was just continuing to belabor his point. And ended the conversation. And I was like, you know, I forgot to tell you, Stacie. I was like, it's not going to work out. Best of luck to you. And thank goodness I didn't send you my nudes. Click.
You said that? How did you not tell me? Good for you. I mean, thank God you didn't send him any nudes or any, like, and I feel like Tyson saw the red flags before we did, because we were like, well, let's give him the benefit of the doubt. And he was like, I don't know about this guy. Yeah. And he was like, why does he not want to meet you? Why is he being so, like, persistent about these nudes? Like, Tyson was like, I don't know about it.
Thank you, Tyson, for being patient and like not like, girl, you need to watch out.
But from what you were telling me, it's like even from like the get-go when you first got on the call with him, he wasn't like, wow, it's so nice to like put a
Yeah.
face to the words. I don't know,
Yeah.
because you
The
hadn't even,
words.
because you guys hadn't even
I
heard each
know.
other's voices. Like, he was just like irritated, I feel,
Yeah.
from what you were telling me
It might
from
have
the
been
get-go.
tired because he was saying like, yeah, I feel tired. And I'll give him that. But again,
I don't care though. Like, if
regardless,
you're like into someone and
yeah,
it's the first time you're
you
seeing
want to
them,
put your
there's gonna be a
best.
little brightness in your
Yeah.
eyes.
And put
Yeah.
the best foot forward. But I
Mhm.
think we were coming off of that conversation via text of like him being bummed out about the nudes on top of
Yeah.
that. I think
Mhm.
because that's what he
That's so
probably knew
gross.
that's what instigated
The
my
call.
call
Mhm.
because he knew he was like annoyed by it. And
Yeah.
I was like, oh, let's have a conversation about it. And I want to meet you.
Yeah.
And let's, we're
Yeah.
at that point
And
right
then
now where we're like, I don't want to waste my time.
and then anything that you were saying, like, he was so combative. He just sounded so angry about everything. Can you imagine being in a relationship with this man? And then I was like, no wonder that last girl that he met was probably like, my God, get me out of here, this
Yeah.
psychopath.
Because he said, yeah, the first date, like, he's like, oh, yeah, we only had 40 texts. 40 texts is a lot, homie. 40 texts is a
And
lot.
it's not hard to just go to coffee and say, like,
Yeah.
okay, no, we don't have a
Yeah.
connection. It was great to meet you,
Exactly.
or not great to meet you,
I
depending
think
on if he's weird like that.
I would bet all of my money that
Mhm.
in a first date, within the first minute, I
Yeah.
would be all like, yeah, this isn't a good fit.
Like, thank God you didn't go meet
I
him
know. I'm
somewhere.
so glad I did not.
But I just feel like you were telling me, like, he was getting mad about, like, stuff that was, like, important to you. Like, you were just telling him about your tattoos and their
Yeah.
cultural significance. We've talked about this on the
I
podcast before, about
know.
how important this process was for Marie and how special it was for you. And him saying, like, "Oh, that, like, that hell no, like, that's, like," and he's Filipino!
I think because in his mind, again, I don't want to justify him.
Mm-mm.
And because I did ask him, would you ever get,
Yeah.
you know, the traditional, especially knowing that he is Filipino,
Yeah.
the traditional hand poking,
Mhm.
because I would think like, oh, maybe he would be interested in
Yeah.
that because you are Filipino and we have that in common.
Mhm.
And for him to answer that in a like, oh, hell the no,
Yeah.
like why would I do that? It
That
has
means nothing
nothing
to me.
to
Yeah.
do with me. And like, again, even though he's not overtly saying you shouldn't do it, but it's still derogatory to why I'm doing it.
Well, and it's
And
like
it's
it makes
disrespectful to
yeah.
me.
And it's like I don't understand why someone would say that when you've basically told him you've gone through this beautiful process
Exactly.
and he's like, "Oh, that."
I know. And so I dodged a bullet as she
You
kept
definitely
telling
dodged a
me.
bullet, and he was just so sounded like he was just so angry, and like as I mentioned when we were talking about it, like he kept like berating you, attacking you, but then saying you were defensive, like total gaslighting. And on top of that, so I have told you this, like one of the unsexiest things to me in a man or in a person, whatever, is someone who has zero self-awareness. And because like that is just so ugly to me. And this man had zero self-awareness. And
None.
I'm sure he gets by on, I don't know, his sexual prowess or
I
whatever.
think it is. Yeah, I think like
But I don't know how a woman could even stand talking to him for a moment.
and that's what breaks my
or
heart
being in a relationship with
of
him.
like anybody who is in a relationship like that.
Mhm.
And I'm talking about no matter how you identify gender, but anyone who feels
Mhm.
like they can just limit themselves and let somebody
or have to limit themselves.
or have to limit
or
themselves.
just keep fighting over any like fighting for a
or
voice.
Fighting for a voice. I'm just like, oh, that breaks my heart. And that's why it was just one of the easiest things I could ever do. Of
Yeah.
like, you know what? Good
Bye.
on ya. Bye.
Oh,
I'm so glad I got that last word in.
I'm very proud of you for that. But definitely dodged a bullet. So, yeah. No pick me girls, no alpha males, no one who doesn't respect you as a person.
And lesson learned, meet them early especially when you are online.
Yeah,
There
red
is a
flag if they don't want to do
reason.
that.
Exactly.